Welcome to the 16th session. In this series, we are using Indian knowledge systems for creating a well-being curriculum to fulfill the new global goal of education. We found out that the ways of knowing of IKS were always an international curriculum. In this session, we will compare IKS and CKS's ideas of character and personality development. We find that IKS studies the source of the mind to build character. It analyzes the elements outside to awaken them inside. Both IKS and CKS seek the goal of inner happiness and well-being. Their way of achieving the goal is different. While CKS uses sense perception as the first way of knowing, which has a limitation. It can only explore the outside world whose nature is to keep changing. Hence, the happiness and well-being created by using CKS concept keeps fluctuating. IKS believes that by developing character and personality to awaken the voice of conscience is a more stable way of creating well-being, because this leads to inner happiness by such an exploration of the inner world. In this manner, it creates well-being for society. The nature of the world is to move fast. Earth revolves. As it rotates simultaneously, it keeps balance due to an axis. Have you discovered your axis and your balance? Do you see your thoughts, opinions, attitudes moving so fast as the world moves so fast? Character is the steady axis in the middle of change. Many know the right thing to do but lack the will to do it. The person who has to speak the truth is clear what to do. Either he or she speaks the truth or keeps silent. There is no third alternative. When there is no alternative, there is no problem. If the truth is not to be spoken, there are many alternatives and many questions. Can such confusion lead to personality development? What is the type of personality you would like to develop? Can you write your views about how this kind of personality development should take place? Buddha discovered that extreme sense indulgence and extreme asceticism are both not useful in reaching the goal. He used a middle path to achieve his goal of life. Speaking the truth lies, speaking lies, speaking the untruth is one extreme when you are always speaking the untruth. Speaking the harsh truth that harms is also another extreme. The middle path is to utter soft, sweet truth. Can you relate Buddha's middle path to the study of limits of the earlier session? We can take a 5-minute break here for you to write down your views. In a fast-changing scenario, what needs to be steady within us? The mind. The intellect can make it steady. How to do it is a challenge in current knowledge system. The element ether, the first expression of the source, is always steady. IKS finds the origin of mind and intellect in ether. CKS also studies the ether principle. What is the difference? CKS studies the ether principle using the moving mind. That part of the mind comes under the air principle. When the subtle mind is attracted to the gross creation, it moves down from ether to air. IKS studies the steady, stable source of the mind and intellect, ether. It does so with a steady mind. To do this, it has a unique way. Just as the study of humans in IKS is in 3 parts, so is the study of the element ether in 3 parts. Humans, IKS says, are the body, the mind, and a steady consciousness. This steady consciousness is the source of creation. It studies ether's 3 parts. 1. Bhutakash. 2. Chit Akash. 3. Chid Akash. These 3 parts are discussed later. First, we see why mind's origin is not air or other elements and how it impacts its ways of knowing. Air is moving, so is the human mind. This session makes the mind sit down on a chair. Eternal ideas of righteous conduct cannot emerge from a source that is ever changing and not stable. The elements sense perception finds keep changing. How to sit and observe them? If we sit and see nature, we find that day turns to night, seasons change, etc. Hence, sense perception cannot guide eternal righteous conduct ideas. Neither can the idea of the mind emerging from air give a stable, eternal idea of wisdom. The 5 elements keep mixing in various permutations and combinations. These can be compared to infer and reveal nature's secrets. All the elements move except ether. The earth has a large proportion of water that gives life and sustains nature. Water too is moving. So is the earth moving, rotating and revolving. This mixing of the 5 elements sustains life. IKS says it expresses itself as 3 gunas: sattva, rajas, tamas. We may discuss this later. We discuss elements and their impact on ways of knowing first. Stark comparisons, upmana, among elements in nature is shown by air and water. Inferences about their differences emerge from a sincere, continuous and disciplined quest leading to intuition and expansion of knowledge. CKS has used such inference. However, CKS's inferences and comparisons use sense perception to study combinations of ether, fire, air, ether and water. Anumana in CKS uses mind's intuition to infer causes of differences. This is different from IKS's insight that leads to wisdom. IKS, unlike theories of CKS, investigates the element ether for creating well-being. Ether is the basis of IKS's use of upamana and anumana. This is the basic difference in IKS and CKS. Though the mind gives intuition and expands knowledge, can it give us wisdom too? If it moves around as air, it will swing between good and bad. Wisdom is known by stability. Such stability is only present in ether. Because the mind moves, can we say it emerges from air? No, IKS states its origin is ether. Problems start if the mind is depicted as clouds shown here. Clouds exist in the sky but move. The mind's capacity is infinite. So is the source, ether, infinite. Only by making the mind steady, this infinite capacity can be tapped. That is the IKS path to creating well-being. Only by understanding the human and identifying a source of well-being within can well-being of society be created. After all, society is an agglomeration of individuals. A macro view of well-being must have its origin in the micro. Hence, IKS education curriculum is centered around making human consciousness rise from I am the body identification or a sense perception based view. A study of limits in using the physical body steadies the mind and awakens consciousness. This leads to finding the truth of who am I. IKS helps us understand creation through its 5 elements. The human body consists of the same 5 elements in creation. This is the basis of the revealed truth of IKS's Vedas. From the symbols, how do we take easy steps to comprehend the elements within ourselves? Are we the body only? The source of creation is beyond time and space. It is shown as sitting on a chair where it is resting above both of them. It is only an observer, not a participant in the processes, even though all processes are caused by it. The source, ether, is beyond subtlest of elements. Hence, CKS and IKS's first way of knowing, that is sense perception, can never grasp it. IKS therefore uses the subtle elements to try and reach it. What makes the human body act, perform tasks, and choose which tasks are to be performed? We know that thoughts, words, and actions of individuals impact society. If these are changed, an individual and society's future can be changed. IKS investigates their cause. It relates it to the elements. Desire gives direction to the human body's energy. The fire of energy is expressed through human thought, word, and deeds. It is shown as rising from earth-based senses upwards. Some say that we had compared thoughts to clouds that pour rain. How can fire be the source of water? IKS says that fire in the lightning is the cause of the rain and the water emerging from the clouds. Similarly, fire of inner search gives a rain of thoughts which come from clouds filled with questions. Rain irrigates earth and gives life-sustaining crops. Similarly, question of who am I fills thoughts and gives a rain of human action that sustains well-being. Wrong ideas and wrong questions will lead to a crop of weeds. Thoughts are subtler than words and actions. Hence, they are at an elevated plane. We use them as air. IKS concluded that the fire is present even if we use the mind as air, just as lightning is the cause of rain and water. This fire of thoughts should guide the mind to rarefy the earth element within the body to reach ether. Above the plane of air, which we use as thoughts, rests consciousness. This soul principle is shared by all of creation. Thus, transforming nature of actions, words, and thoughts is a curriculum of IKS. It uses practices to fire thought and action. Its nature of search creates emotional and physical well-being. within the individual. Society is but a collection of individuals. The IKS path to well-being. Let's study it. How CKS may misinterpret IKS. The mind moves. Is it like clouds existing in air? No, IKS states. Its origin is ether. The mind's capacity is infinite. So is ether infinite. Studying the mind taps its infinite capacity. So how does IKS study ether? We experience the mind's capacity and assume it is coming from its capacity to move, depicted as clouds in the air. For example, when you close your eyes and think of a huge mountain that you have just seen, you instantly see it in your mind. Hence, the biggest idea can be seen in the mind. CKS uses this approach for scientific discovery. IKS goes beyond it too. IKS states that this is not the full capacity of the mind, but is only one aspect of the mind. It can be called the cosmic mind. It is limited to sense impressions it generates about the cosmos. IKS classifies ether or Akash, the source, into three categories. 1. Bhut Akash, 2. Chit Akash, and 3. Chidakash. Bhut Akash is the entire physical cosmos. It spans the entire physical plane that scientists and all can investigate. It includes the sun, stars, moon, galaxies, and everything seen. 2. The second is Chitakash, is the cosmic mind. All that you visualize and see in the Bhutakash appears just as a tiny blip on the Chitakash. The entire visible cosmos is a small part of the cosmic mind. It is so subtle that the visible cosmos appears as a blip in it. The visible cosmos reflects in the Chitakash. However, IKS states that using the fluctuating mind, moving as air or clouds, will not help transcend the mind to discover the source. Only a steady mind can reach the source of infinity, larger than the cosmos. How to steady it? The use of the body through a study of limits does it. A discipline of speaking the truth limits actions to righteous conduct. This steadies the mind. Thus, to discover the truth of who am I, speak the truth first. Chidakash, the third, is consciousness, the source, an infinite bliss experience that IKS education prepares all of us for. It is beyond the subtle sphere. Its nature is radiation of selfless love. This leads to vibrations that is called the word. From vibration, which is subtle, gross matter or materialization of the universe occurs. The gross materialized universe, Bhutakash, is in a state of dynamic balance. The Chidakash, the source, consciousness, is in a state of absolute balance. The human mind can lose its balance because it misuses the degrees of freedom it has. All personal and social problems IKS finds are caused by imbalance in the mind. The mind is the source of all. IKS transforms individuals by impacting the subconscious mind using its practices. The first two, speaking the truth and righteous conduct, lead to a dynamic balance within all. When all are in balance, society too will be in dynamic balance that actually exists in the visible cosmos. Consciousness is bliss, a state of absolute balance. Subtleness emerges from it. As the mind gets attracted towards the gross, it takes that as reality and becomes unsteady. We will depict it as clouds in the air, even though the goal is to rise above that. So the incorrect use of the mind is when gross matter attracts the mind, it separates from ether to become denser. We can speculate that probably the mind then comes down to the air element and starts moving. Thoughts emerge as passing clouds, disappearing and reappearing in a different form. The correct use of the mind. Let's see that the wavering mind is the cause of bondage according to IKS. How to liberate it? Wisdom uses moon that waxes and wanes daily as a symbol of the mind. The goal of education in IKS is to fix the mind in a state where it is just enough to see gross reality, without forgetting its essential subtleness. The crescent moon signifies this state. In all religions, in many religions in fact, the crescent moon is used. Lord Shiva in Hinduism uses it. Islam uses the crescent moon too. The humans are not just the earthly body but also mind and consciousness. A wrong belief exists that I am only the body. So who am I? This is IKS's most important and first question always. A wrong belief that I am only the body leads to making sense perception as the first way of knowing oneself and creation. This pulls the mind out of the state of consciousness to wrongly believing it is freely moving as the air principle, so it has full freedom to do what it wants. How can the mind be air? For air surrounds a dead body, yet it cannot give it life. Hence, I am the body is a subtle delusion. The deluded mind's thoughts pour as rain from floating clouds of this illusion in air. The mind then uses sense perception as a first way of knowing everything in creation. Fire makes air less dense and rise up. Education uses the fire or energy of thought, word and deed to make the air of illusion less dense. It takes the mind back to consciousness, its true state. The mind can take the shape of what it believes. It is not air, yet its attraction to gross creation and the earthly body makes it move. IKS helps us understand creation through observing ourselves and nature and using its 5 elements for analysis. This is the basis of the revealed truth of IKS's Vedas. The symbols used in IKS are designed as easy steps to comprehend the 5 elements within ourselves. Chidakash is the source. Bhutakash is associated with the physical plane. Chitakash is associated with the subtle plane. Chidakash is pure bliss, beyond planes of existence, without form or attribute. It is beyond comprehension and knowledge. Chidakash can only be experienced and not understood. Scientific investigations take up only to Chitakash and not beyond. Beyond science, IKS delves into a stable inner science of well-being. Its understanding of ether as 3 parts is related to the individual. We think we are one body-mind complex, yet we are 3. How? 1. The one you think you are. This is the physical world, Bhutakash, because it constitutes what you see, hear, feel, sense and experience in the physical world. 2. The one others think you are. This is subtle, Chitakash, since it is what others think of you based on the mind's projections and impressions. 3. The one you really are. This is pure experience of bliss beyond all subtlety, Chidakash. IKS helps you discover your potential of bliss. When we will talk of ether and sky, we will refer to the Chidakash, or the eternal, never-changing truth of oneself. IKS brings the study of 5 elements and its ways of knowing within all individuals. The physical body and the world have obvious facts. Sense perception recognizes them. IKS and CKS start from here. The difference in CK and IKS is in comparisons that IKS does between fire and water principles, etc., or the processes of intuition that the mind can use to experience bliss. These impact the nature of thought, that is fire, for the reign of ideas. To make things simple, IKS uses symbols that even a child can relate to. The human is a mind-body complex which has gross earth and water elements. Its subtle inclinations come from higher subtle elements, ether, air, fire. The mind fluctuates like the moon. IKS guides it using the intellect depicted by the sun, because the sun doesn't change shape every day. The mind thus transforms to a crescent moon. A crescent moon mind is blissful. The source, consciousness, is beyond the mind. The source is like an envelope containing infinite expressions of creation. The source of creation is beyond the grasp of the human mind. Its experience can only emerge when the mind is like the crescent moon, the first stage of the mind awakening. Can we say that the zero state of the mind is the source? Can we say that one is the way to experience it? We know that creation has infinite expressions. The mind is unable to grasp their fullness. If an envelope contains this infinity, will the size of envelope too not be infinite? Was creation a case of infinity being taken out of infinity, yet the infinite envelope remained infinite? How will this understanding impact our study of academic subjects? If academics has to grasp and live in creation, how to teach it? We grasp the world through concepts that use ways of knowing. The IB theory of current knowledge system, its theory of knowledge uses 8 ways of knowing. Ancient wisdom is about transforming all of them. IKS, the first CKS way of knowing, is sense perception. This is shared with the animal world. What perception can help humans declare their distinction from the animal world? It is the essence that Feuerbach feels Hegel has placed outside humans. He says it lies inside them and identifies human essence as sensuousness. IKS says the opposite, that the essence exists inside humans, within humans, as consciousness of selfless love. The second CKS, current knowledge system way, is reason. How is it used? Does animal world sense perception lead to animal instinct? Some celebrate capitalism as animal spirit. IKS says reason should be guided by human essence, not animal essence. The third CKS way of knowing is emotion. If emotion is based on animal instinct or sense perception, it may be uncontrollable. If human essence is a guide for emotion, they can be directed to create well-being for self and others. The fourth way of knowing in CKS is faith. To develop faith in one's own ability, education must unravel the true unique potential of all. The fifth way of knowing is in current knowledge system is imagination. Will imagination of goals be directed by sense experience or by human essence of or consciousness? Then the next way of knowing is intuition. Intuitively, should we be guided by sense perception or Maslow's higher level of needs? The other ways of CKS current knowledge system are memory and language. These will be guided by our approach to the above. The current knowledge system gives us Maslow's need hierarchy. IKS gives the way to rise in it. This is through practices that transform the basis of knowing in the subconscious mind. The conscious mind follows. The difference between CKS and IKS inferences is that CKS explores the different expressions of energy and the resultant phenomena. Such inferences and comparisons, even as they may be subtle, show the power of the mind. However, OECD concluded that such inferences and comparisons created prosperity, not well-being. What is the nature of inferences IKS seeks? IKS seeks to infer that one energy that powers all phenomena, the same energy must be powering human life, thought and action. It then seeks the source of the energy within to create well-being for oneself and others simultaneously. Similarly, what is the nature of comparison IKS seeks? IKS compares humans with all other species. Its comparison results in finding that one thing that declares the distinction of humans from all others. The expression of this distinction is in its second goal of life or artha. The ability to look beyond food, clothing, shelter and even to go beyond the mind declares it. How has this declaration of distinction been made using current knowledge system? Current knowledge system gives Maslow's need hierarchy, but evidence of the last 150 years shows that humans in society have not been able to rise in it in significant numbers to enable well-being. The World Inequality Report shows that the top 1% have captured 20% of the total growth, and the prosperity of the global 1% is what is harming society by increasing the world inequality, according to this report. Well-being is not created by theory but by practices. IKS theory is derived from experience emerging from such practices. The chair of nature on which the source sits is not just in the outside world that we see with our eyes open. It also exists within the inside world of each individual. IKS gives the path to sit on it. The same elements that have created the cosmos and the universe have created humans too. Hence, they are within each individual too. The 5 elements are within each individual. Understanding their nature helps us discover our nature. No lasting experience of personal well-being is possible until we discover our own inner nature first. So IKS says, sitting on the chair within us is the same consciousness, a source of bliss whose subset is well-being. We often hear a phrase, if we aim for the clouds, we will fall on the treetops. How will it apply to IKS? If we aim for bliss, we will experience well-being. The journey to bliss goes through well-being and starts with practices. This course lays a deep emphasis on practice. Every attempt is made to make all the lectures very short. A 5-minute slot at the end of this lecture is being given for silent sitting. This is to enable the participant to mull over what is said. Whatever has been heard should be repeated in the mind so that it gets absorbed. Just as sugar is stirred in a cup of tea or coffee with a spoon, use the spoon of silence to stir the sugar of Indian knowledge systems in your mind. It takes some time for the tea or coffee to become sweet. Patience is very important. The perspectives shared in the course will seem meaningful only if such silent sitting is done to mull over what has been said. Else, the half an hour spent in delivering the lectures will be a waste of time. We welcome you to undertake an inner journey during these 5 minutes. Only then will knowledge that is outside you will become wisdom inside you. The time allocated for this is actually 20 minutes, not 5 minutes. The time should be increased gradually. This is also a time for the mind to take rest. In case it cannot do that, mull over whether the voice of the conscience has guided you at any time in life till now. We accept challenges for the physical body in games. In a gym, we can have a 20 minutes plank challenge. We may exchange challenges on the quantity of food we can eat. Can we go beyond such challenges to the second step of the Indian knowledge systems? Can we see if the mind itself can take rest and maybe stop working? Can we explore what will happen if it becomes zero? Remember, it is not good to challenge the mind. It rebels and makes you do the opposite of what you want it to do. It is far simpler to observe the mind. For doing this, first the physical body should move as little as possible. Observe the mind as it tells the body to move. You are not telling the body to move, the mind is telling the body to move. Observe the mind. Move away from the mind and see what it is forcing the body to do. Watch the mind as if you are sitting on a fan at a distance. When you are at home, Shavasana in yoga is a good posture for this practice. Try to first silence the body, then the mind. For those who have mastered this, they can try the next method. When you think of nothing, can you experience love without giving it a shape of a thing like your favorite food or a thing that you want to own or the physical form of a person? Can it just be love without an emotion to a person or a thing? Can it be love for the sake of love? How do you experience loving yourself? The purpose of this course is to help you discover yourself, that loving being beyond the body and the mind.